Shalom Israel, blessed Sabbath to you. My name is Brother Zerubbabel.
My name is Ezra Zelazar.
We are children of Israel. Welcome back again to another lesson. We're going to jump right in. This lesson is titled, A Man May Be Known by His Look, obviously coming straight from the scriptures. Why do we decide to do this lesson? Well, for one, to deal with the notion that is basically spread throughout Christianity, throughout the world. Period. That you can't judge people by how they look, um, when in actuality the Bible actually teaches the opposite. That we can judge, and we do judge, and we should judge someone by their look, based on the title, "A Man May Be Known by His Look." That's not something we made up. It's not a title that and you will find that with just about every video that we do. The titles of our videos come straight from the scriptures, just to kind of like make that point known that, what, this is the title of the class. If you're going to try and disprove what it is that we're teaching, you're going to have a hard time doing it when the very title of the class is coming straight from the scriptures. Going to be real hard to debunk what's coming straight from the scriptures. Okay, so that's why we do our best to avoid just coming up with titles, because you do see sometimes people will, come up with these titles that they use for their videos. Nothing wrong with it, you know what I mean? But we just choose to use the scriptures themselves as the title, because um, somebody could always say, "Oh, well, your video is titled this, but you're teaching this." That has, title of videos got nothing to do with the scriptures. So just to avoid it, choose to use the scriptures as the titles in our videos. Um, but again, the title is, "A Man May Be Known by His Look." Again, why do we choose to do this video? While going through the last or past 10 videos that we've done, 10 classes dealing with the 10 commandments, um, over and over again, the same, when you deal with teaching the commandments and teaching our people to keep the commandments, teaching them how to repent. Um, Part of the commandments is that the Most High he gave us commandments on how we are to um, show ourselves to the rest of the world, how we should appear in the eyes of the other nations. Um, you hear us go to Deuteronomy 4 and 5 through 6, quite often. That the other nations should be able to look at us and be able to say that we're a wise and understanding people. Unfortunately, being brought up here in the US and all throughout the world now, because through social media, the US or American customs has been pushed and spread throughout the earth now. So you've got people over in, China, Japan, Philippines, the UK, um, all over the world, Australia, Central and South America, Africa, basically walking around, um, trying to walk and talk and act like Americans, which American culture is really what we like to call so-called Black culture, which really isn't our culture, but we seem to have adopted it through, rap music, R&B music. All of it encompasses uh, this one thing that we've come to call our culture. Um, the way we walk, the way we talk, the way we dress, all of it is all entangled in it. Um, the movie industry, the video game industry. You have video games um, that have come out over the last 20 plus years based on um, like hip hop and what was that video game? It was like a fighting game with DMX. I can't even remember the name of it from back in the day. Um, where it was one of the start of the video games where they were showing the sagging pants, the baggy clothes, the tattoos, you know what I mean, really trying to take on this form of what we call culture, which is really so-called what we've adopted as Black culture, which is being stolen by the other cultures here in the US and now spreading throughout the world, where now you have, little white kids over in the UK walking around with their pants sagging with tattoos, um, talking and sounding like they're basically off the streets of, one of the hoods in the US. You got so-called Bloods and Crips over in the UK and all over the world now. Um, People adopting this foolishness. Um, and at the same time, um, kind of bringing an awareness to people, mainly our people, as to um, how to keep yourself safe, how to keep yourself out of trouble, because sometimes red flags could be right in front of your face, but because of foolishly giving in to social norms that you shouldn't judge people just by how they look, you might hurt somebody's feelings. Like, well, if hurting your feelings is going to save my life or save my wife's life or a family member, a friend's life, because they've heeded the warning that, what, when you see this person dressed like this, walking like this, talking like this, acting like this, don't be afraid to go around the other way or turn around and go back the other direction, cross the street, cross the aisle, lock your doors, um, go inside, go inside your house, whatever the case is, to keep yourself safe. Then by all means, um, you should be, using uh, that information, just as we're going to bring out today, because like I said, as we have been teaching those 10 commandments and showing how our people are constantly breaking these commandments, such as when we're showing, thou shalt not steal, and we're showing videos of some of, and mainly the youth, the kids out there doing these home invasions, doing these car robberies, these smash and grabs in the stores, um, carjackings. You name it, and it has to do with robbing and stealing. The majority of the kids out here that are doing it are so-called Black and Hispanic kids. You Israelites, these are your kids out here committing these crimes, and you have to ask yourself, number one, where are their parents at? How is it that so many of these kids are caught up in this foolishness and these parents have no clue that their kids are walking around with guns shoved down their pants and going into liquor stores and convenience stores and pulling out guns and robbing the place? You know what I mean? It baffles my mind that these kids are doing this stuff. Um, you know, when it comes to thou shalt not commit adultery. When we're showing videos of how, you know, the young girls in the Black and Hispanic communities are dressing, you know what I mean? How the boys are dressed, how the boys are treating the girls because of the way they are dressed. And when somebody tries to stand up against it and say, hey, look, you shouldn't be dressed like this, then people get offended. And it's, again, it's how this culture has been changed. This culture has been inundated with, you can't judge, you know, I'm free to act the way I want, dress the way I want, be the way I want, and nobody can tell me anything different. Um, you know, a lot of this has led to where now you've got a generation of young girls growing up that before they even hit middle school already, you know, have engaged in, you know, some type of forms of sexual activity, the young boys, and not just with one boy, but by the time they get to high school, multiple, and then get to high school and it gets even worse. They get to college and it gets even worse. Um, so we have to bring awareness to our people that this goes against the Bible. You can't sit, because you got to remember, the majority of these people that are engaging in this stuff, they call themselves Christians. Isn't that what America says it was built upon? Christian values, so-called Christian values. So when it comes to thou shalt not kill, the same thing. Um, how are you going to prevent yourself from becoming a victim of a lot of these crimes if you don't know what to look for? You don't know. I mean, the obvious sign. Okay, you see some. Well, and nowadays that's the other problem. It has it's been socially accepted, but it used to be that if you saw somebody walking around with a mask on, a ski mask on, wearing all black, with some gloves on, you you knew, like, okay, wait a minute, there's something not right. This person's about to pull a robbery or something. It was obvious. But now, because of COVID, you've got these kids out here taking advantage of the fact that it's become socially accepted for people to just walk around with masks on now. And if you question them about it, now you get people being offended, people, you know, getting mad about it and things like that. Um, because now basically, well, why are you wearing that mask? Oh, well, I don't want to get COVID. You know, that's the excuse people can use now. And you can't say anything about it. Like, oh, okay. When in reality, they could be planning on holding up a jewelry store or getting ready to go rob somebody, or, you know what I mean, do some kind of harm to someone. Um, but again, it comes back to people accepting this social norm that you can't judge me. You can't judge people by the way they look. But we're going to show you today out of the scriptures that yes, we can and we should be, especially when it comes to your safety. Um, so, because again, this is another one of these situations where our people have been misled, our people have been mistaught, um, and it's having extreme consequences upon the so-called Black and Hispanic communities. All right, because of these false teachings, these false doctrines that are coming out of the Christian churches, and just out of society, period. Okay, so let's start off with Hebrews 5:12 through 14 as usual.
The book of Hebrews, chapter 5, In verse 12, for when for the time ye ought to be teachers, ye have need that one teach you again, which be the first principles of the oracles of God, and are become such as have need of milk and not of strong meat. For every one that useth milk is unskillful in the word of righteousness, for he is a babe. But strong meat belongeth to them that are of full age, even those who by reason of use have their senses exercised to discern both good and evil.
And it always comes back to this same thing. Every week when we start off our lessons, we go through this, and we have to, because we got to constantly put that reminder out there. Our people need to be retaught, because they need to understand how to discern the difference between good and evil. Because in this society, there is a line that's been drawn, and people don't have the discernment to understand which side of the line they should be standing on, because the things that appear that they should be on the left actually should be on the right, and the things that look like they should appear on the right should actually be on the left. um, the things that are supposed to be good are looked at as evil, and the things that are supposed to be evil or that are evil are looked at as good in this society. Everything is backwards. So we have to reteach our people. Our people need to be retaught this Bible. They need to be retaught God's commandments. And this, a man may be known by his look. This is a part of the law. This is, remember, this whole book, this entire book of what was called the Bible is the law, not it. The first 5 books, people look at as that's the law. No, the entire Bible is the law. All right. So we've got to keep that in mind. And the only way our people are going to actually get the change that they're looking for, that they claim they want, is after they've been taught God's commandments, been taught how to exercise their senses to discern. Can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
All right. Yeah, we haven't had this problem for a while. I don't know why all of a sudden um, this thing is doing this. See, like right now, I'm trying to put the scriptures back up on the screen, and it's not showing up. What is going on? All right, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I don't know what's going on. All of a sudden, I keep getting kicked out of the room. All right, let's try and continue on. I'm telling you, this weird stuff is going on because I'm seeing it happen with my kids too, where seeing like weird stuff are happening to Israelite live views and stuff that I think is being done purposely. But let's go to First Peter 2:2.
The book of First Peter, chapter 2, and verse 2. As newborn babes desire the sincere milk of the word, that ye may grow thereby.
All right, so this is for our people, you so-called Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. When you come into this truth, come in as a newborn babe. You got to humble yourself as a little child. You got to be willing to be retaught. You got to be willing to digest this word and digest this content that we're bringing to you, as far as the word of the Most High, the word of God. Because if you really want change, as our people claim they say they want change in our communities, they want to change within themselves, want to see change within, your life. Um, if that's true, you should be doing everything you can to make to take the necessary steps to make that change happen. All right. Which again, number one, we just read it, being willing to be retaught, being willing to let go of any pride, any preconceived notions you may have about the Israelites and what we teach. Um, Whatever the case is, anything that is making you hesitate to want to take that, put your first, take that first step and put your, foot forward. Anything that's hindering you from doing it, you want to try and get it out of the way. Um, because, all of these lessons are important for our people. Every single one of these lessons that we bring out, Israelites, that are other Israelite groups that are teaching, churches, whether it's a camp, whatever the case is, all of these teachings are, if they're coming out of the Bible, are beneficial to our people. Okay. Um, and it's what's going to actually convert our people, or actually what's going to bring change to our people and to our communities. That's if our people actually desire the change that they claim that they want. um you know what I mean? Again, desire the sincere milk of the word, that you may grow thereby. It's the only way you're going to grow as a person. You're going to grow as an individual. You're going to grow as an Israelite, being a part of the community, because this is just who we are. There's no questions about it. At this point, I don't understand why our people are so against it. You know what I mean? It's like, what do you have to lose? You already lost everything else. You don't know who you are. You don't know where you came from. You know what I mean? And you don't know anything about your history, your heritage, your ancestors, who they are, where they came from, what land they occupied, what kind of foods they ate, what kind of holidays they celebrated or holy days, what kind of God they worship. You don't know. It's never been taught to you. And here it is. You've got your brothers out here, trying to teach you. And you would rather accept being an NIGGA, African American, Black, being a Hispanic, a Mexican, a Puerto Rican, a Dominican, a Haitian, a Native American. You'd rather cling on to those titles, run around carrying, a American flag, a Puerto Rican flag, a Mexican flag, you know what I mean? Any other flag, rather than coming back to your true heritage, um, and being who and what your oppressors want you to be. It's kind of sad. It's scary. All right. So we're going to go to the book of Sirach. We're going to go to chapter 33. You're going to read verse 3.
The book of Ecclesiasticus, chapter 33, and verse 3. And it says, a man of understanding trusteth in the law, and the law is faithful unto him as an oracle.
So remember, the first thing in the oracles of God that you have to do is you must be retaught. All right. As an oracle, as a teacher of the law, as a teacher of God's word, you have to have an understanding. You must have understanding. And with that understanding, you have to have trust in the law of the Lord. A man of understanding trusteth in the law, meaning a repentant man or repentant Israelite. That's a man of understanding. Someone who's repented of their sins, who's come back to the history and heritage that God gave to us, to you so-called Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. That's a man of understanding, a person which is an Israelite, man or woman, that has repented, that have turned from evil. Just real quick, grab it in Job 28:28. Did it freeze?
Yeah, what are we doing? Read it again.
Job 28:28, real quick.
Oh,
Yeah, you already read it? No, go to Job 28:28. You already read it?
no. The book
See,
of
it paused for so long. I don't know if you actually went there already or not. All right, okay.
the book of Job, chapter 28 and verse 28. And unto man he said, behold, the fear of the Lord, that is wisdom, and to depart from evil is understanding.
Can you hear me? Because you froze up on my screen again. Hello, hello, hello.
You there?
Yeah, you keep freezing up on my screen. We got the first part about that is wisdom, but the second part I didn't hear. Go ahead and read it
Okay.
one more time.
The book of Job, chapter 28 and verse 28. And unto man he said, behold, the fear of the Lord, that is wisdom, and to depart from evil is understanding.
So departing from evil is what the Bible teaches us is understanding. Departing from evil, in other words, means that you are repenting of the evil. You're turning away from it, meaning that you're no longer doing it. If you're a thief, you're not continuing to be a thief. If you were a whoremonger or committing adultery, you're no longer committing those acts. You were a murderer, you have hatred in your heart for, your fellow Israelite man or woman or brother or sister, that you let go of that hatred, you let go of that murderous spirit. You've changed. You know what I mean? If you were an idolater, you let go of that idolatry. Whatever the case is. If you were breaking commandment 4, you were, weren't keeping the Sabbath day, and now you've come back to keeping the Sabbath day. That's repentance. Okay, that's having understanding. And as it says, a man of understanding trusteth in the law. In order for you to gain that understanding, in order for you to repent, you have to trust in the law. You have to trust that the law is going to guide you to a good place, that, it's not going to misguide you. And it says, and the law is faithful unto him as an oracle. So when you start to teach, you know that the law is going to be faithful to you. It's not going to, you're not going to go astray. It's not going to lead you to a broken path. Okay, like when we teach, have full faith and trust in the law. When we bring this out, that, you know what I mean, that what we're teaching you is going to help change your life, such as this lesson today. A man may be known by his look. We're bringing this out so that we could help change the lives of our people, help them learn how to um, present themselves to the world in a way that is looked at in a good way by the Lord. Okay. A man of understanding trusteth in the law, and the law is faithful unto him as an oracle. Let's go to Sirach 6. And you're going to read verses 32 through 37.
The book of Ecclesiasticus, chapter 6 and verse 32. My son, if thou wilt, thou shalt be taught, and if thou wilt apply thy mind, thou shalt be prudent. If thou love to hear, thou shalt receive understanding, and if thou bow thine ear, thou shalt be wise. Stand in the multitude of the elders, and cleave unto him that is wise. Be willing to hear every godly discourse, and let not the parables of understanding escape thee. And if thou setst a man of understanding, get thee by times unto him, and let thy foot wear the steps of his door. Let thy mind be upon the ordinances of the Lord, and meditate continually in the commandments. He shall establish thine heart, and give thee wisdom of thy own desires.
All right. So again, my son, if thou wilt, thou shalt be taught. Wilt is saying if you're willing, if you're going to take the time to study, you're going to read, you're going to learn, you're going to apply what you're being taught. Then it's saying, if you're willing, if you're of a willing mind, my son, if thou wilt, if you're willing to put the time in, thou shalt be taught. If you're willing to trust in, I know they say this a lot in like sports and stuff like that, trust the process. That's the only thing we could ask you to do, is trust the process. You know what I mean? You're willing to do it with your football, your soccer, your baseball, your tennis, your hockey, whatever sport you're playing. Why are people not willing to do that when it comes to this Bible? Trust the process. That in the process is what? Learning God's commandments. My son, if thou wilt, thou shalt be taught, and if thou wilt apply thy mind, thou shalt be prudent. You have to apply your mind. In other words, you've got to have your heart set on learning the commandments of the Lord. You've got to actively want to go and pursue this knowledge by doing what? By picking up the book and reading it. And once you read it, get understanding of it. And once you have understanding of it, apply it to your life. That's how it's going to bring change to you. It's not going to do you any good to have this Bible sitting in a drawer somewhere in your house collecting dust, which is mostly what's happening in the so-called Black and Hispanic communities. Most of us have Bibles in our homes. The difference is we're actually opening it up and reading it and studying it. The people that we're trying to reach are those who don't, that Lord willing, they come across one of these videos and it sparks whatever that, whatever it is that's within you that says, hey, you know what? Wait a minute. I didn't know the Bible said this. Let me go and get this Bible out the drawer, wipe the dust off, and read it. I've never heard this before. But that's what I had to do. That's what he had to do. I was in that position. I was going to church, not reading the Bible at all. Because that's what we were told. Only the ministers have the knowledge of the scriptures. Don't read it for yourself because you will get confused. We don't want you getting confused. So just wait till you come to church and let the ministers teach you. Because they're the ministers of God. And we believe that foolishness. Never open the Bible up. They didn't even, in fact, the church I went to, they didn't even want us opening our Bibles up in the church. So you would probably see one or two people who actually would bring their Bible into the church and, following along with their Bible open. Wasn't until I heard this truth being taught and it sparked that something within my spirit. It's like, wait a minute, I've never heard that before. Like, what are they talking about? And had to go grab the Bible out the drawer, wipe it off, and then quickly realize, like, wait a minute. Hold on one second. I'll grab it. I still got it right here. This Bible right here, you see it looks brand new, don't it? It's a NIV version. It's probably 25 plus years old. Can you see it? Am I bringing it too close? Probably 25 plus years old. Still look brand new. Why is that? Never read it. Never read it. Never opened it up to read it because we were told not to. That's crazy, right? And that was the thing. Never read the King James Version because all we ever heard about was NIV. NIV. Didn't really know much about King James Version till started hearing the Israelites. But here's the difference. This one here is about 10 years old. You can see it's falling apart. My wife took the time to put a different cover on it. You can see it's well used, marked up. I go on any page and you can see it's been read through from cover to cover. So you can see the difference. You know what I mean? I'm just showing this because I'm just giving you an idea of my growth in this truth. I went from never reading, never touching it, and here it is. And you can see once I learned about the King James Version, I really didn't touch it. It's just been sitting there. All right. Went from that to this. Why? Because I was willing to apply my mind. I wanted to be prudent. It says, if thou love to hear, thou shalt receive understanding. I wanted to hear. I wanted to learn. I wanted to know. Like, what is it that these pastors, these ministers in our church haven't been teaching us? Like, what is going on? Like, you mean to tell me I've been lied to all this time? I've been sitting here in this church thinking I'm following God's commandments and I'm being holy and being a Christian and In reality, I ain't done nothing Lord said. I follow not one commandment. If thou love to hear, thou shalt receive understanding. If thou bow thine ear, thou shalt be wise. I had to learn to bow my ear to this truth and learn the difference between the NIV and the King James versions. See that again. This is Christianity, still looking brand new after years and years and years. And I'm not exaggerating. This Bible is, I know it's over 25 years old. I bought this at Walmart, I want to say probably around 1998, somewhere around there. This is being an Israelite. You can see the difference. That's all I'm trying to point out to you. You see the difference. That's how being hungry, being thirsty, hungering and thirsting for knowledge. It says, stand in the multitude of the elders and cleave unto him that is wise. That's what we had to do. We thought that the people that were teaching in our Christian churches, or, in his case, coming from the Catholic religion, we thought we were being taught the truth. We trusted in their process rather than trusting in God's. We trusted in, which the Bible tells us not to do. We'll read Jeremiah 17. And because we were trusting in men, we were trusting man's process, we were being misled. Verse 35 says, be willing to hear every godly discourse, and let not the parables of understanding escape thee. That's why you can see with this other Bible, it's been read through over and over and over and over again. And over again. Studied, marked up, precepts written all throughout it, torn pages getting taped back together. Like I showed you, the cover was so bad it fell off. My wife put a new cover on there because I didn't want to get rid of it. Okay. But you got to be willing to hear every godly discourse. If it's coming out of the scriptures, you got to be willing to hear it. And if thou seest a man of understanding, get thee betimes unto him, and let thy foot wear the steps of his door. Ask questions. Be willing to, say, hey, you know what? I know you got understanding of these scriptures, show me, teach me. People are willing to do that in any and every other situation. But when it comes to this Bible, they don't want to do it. Verse 37 says, let thy mind be upon the ordinances of the Lord, and meditate continually in his commandments. That's what we must be willing to do. You've got to be meditating daily. You've got to be thinking about these commandments. You've got to be playing these commandments back in your mind over and over and over again throughout the day. Not just being a Sunday service worshiper, where 6 days out of the week, you're just living life, not thinking about the Lord, and on Sunday, you're going to church. And all of a sudden being holy for that 1 hour, 2 hours that you're sitting in service, and then you get out and it starts all over again. You forget all about God. You forget all about being faithful and holy and repentant, and you're right back out there in the midst of the world committing sin. We got to meditate continually in his commandments. It's a continual thing. It says, he shall establish thine heart and give thee wisdom at thine own desire. You will receive wisdom. You will receive knowledge, understanding of these scriptures when you truly desire it. The Lord will give it to you. It'll come to you. You just got to be willing. Let's go to Proverbs and go to chapter 10, or go to Proverbs 10 and 23.
The book of Proverbs, chapter 10 and verse 23. It is a sport to a fool to do mischief, but a man of understanding hath wisdom.
It is as sport to a fool to do mischief, but a man of understanding hath wisdom. Think of a sport. Think of a football player, basketball player, baseball player, soccer player. How much dedication it takes in order to get good at that sport. Think about that. It takes a lot of dedication. It takes a lot of time and practice and money and everything else you could think of. And people are willing to pay crazy amounts of money in order for their kids to get better at a sport. But when it comes to the Bible, they don't have that same zeal for their kid to learn the Bible. There's something wrong. It is a sport to a fool to do mischief. That means that a person that's a fool that likes to commit mischief, that means that, like a sport, they're dedicated to mischief. They put a lot of time and effort and energy into creating mischief. They're completely dedicated to mischief. They're practiced on a daily basis. Everything they do is caught up in doing stuff that is foolish, wicked, and evil. It says, but a man of understanding hath wisdom. A man of understanding has full clarity as to what it takes for a person to get involved in mischief. And we see it. Look at some of these young kids that are caught up in gangs. It's like a sport to them. You have one kid that's playing a sport, another kid that's uh, into gang banging. This gang banger is just as dedicated to gang banging as that kid is to his sport. Think of, I don't know, like LeBron James spent a lifetime in basketball, dedicated to practice, dedicated to being on the road and going from city to city and playing in these games, practicing his jump shots, practicing his dribbling, practicing his, whatever it is, whatever else he's practicing in the weight room, running, building up endurance. The money that was spent as a kid growing up on basketball shoes and basketball camps and all of this stuff. That same dedication is no different than your average neighborhood or hood gang member that's dedicated to dressing the part, making sure they've got the colors, the colors right in on their clothes, whether it's red or blue, whatever other colors. Back in the day, with the crease in the pants, they were wearing the Dickies with the crease in the pants back in the day. See, back in the day, it was easy to spot a gang member. It was you couldn't misplace them. They're wearing either Ben Davis or they're wearing Dickies. They had the crease in the pants. They were baggy. They had the Ben Davis shirt on or the Dickies shirt on, matching the pants. And in most cases, it was usually the colors of the gang they were in, whether it was blue, whether it was red, or they had on the flannel shirt with the white t-shirt under it. It was like a sport. That was the uniform. In a sport, don't you wear the uniform? You put on your team's uniform with the team's logo on it. It's no different than a gang member. They're going to put on the uniform. You're going to go to practice every day, whether it's basketball, football, baseball, soccer. For the gang member, they're going to go to practice every day. They're out there practicing. They're in the weight room, just like the athlete is on the out in the yard or out on the field in the weight room, lifting, running. It's no different than the gang member. They go a lot of time. They go to jail. I don't know if they still have them. Back in the day, I know they used to have full weight rooms for the inmates. They're in there lifting, fighting, practicing. That's practicing, going out pew pewing. It's no different. It's a sport. All right. Let's go to Proverbs 27. You're going to read verse 17.
The book of Proverbs, chapter 27 and verse 17. Iron sharpeneth iron, so a man sharpeneth the countenance of his friend.
All right. So iron sharpeneth iron. If you want to sharpen a sword, you want to sharpen a knife, what are you going to use? You can use a rock, but in most cases, you're going to use another iron object to sharpen it, something that's just as hard, something that's just as durable to sharpen it. So you're going to have to find yourself somebody that, number one, you can trust, whose mind is dedicated to the same thing as your mind is. If you're trying to change your life, you want to be around this, as we just read. You want to be around somebody who's keeping the commandments, somebody that's just as dedicated to the law and commandments of the Lord as you are, somebody who's just as dedicated to reading, somebody that's just as dedicated to studying, somebody who's just as dedicated to applying the commandments and the law to their life. So that way you can help each other out. When one of you stumbles and falls, there's the other one there to pick them up. In Ecclesiastes, it says two are better than one. Where is that at? Is that Ecclesiastes? Oh my gosh, I can't even think of where it's at. Hold on. Two. That is Ecclesiastes 4 and 9.
The book of
Read,
Ecclesiastes.
actually, read 11 also. Actually,
Mhm.
hold on. 9 through 12.
Okay. The book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 4 and verse 9. Two are better than one, because they have a good reward for their labor. For if they fall, the one will lift up his fellow. But woe to him that is alone when he falleth, for he had not another to help him up. Again, if two lie together, then they have heat. But how can one be warm alone? And if one prevail against him, two shall withstand him, and a third fold cord is not quickly broken.
And a threefold cord is not quickly broken. All right. So, like I was just saying, the scriptures tells us that two are better than one. Okay. So it's better for you to have that trusted person that you can grow in this truth with. It says because they have a good reward for their labor. Don't try and do this alone. Okay. if you just one person, two people. As it says, for if they fall, the one will lift up his fellow, but woe to him that is alone when he falleth, for he hath not another to help him up. Who's going to be, let's say, you're out there on the ski slopes. You're trying to learn how to ski. You're out there by yourself. You're out there alone. Nobody there with you. You're skiing down the mountain, swerving side to side. You got that speed going. And all of a sudden you don't see that tree, and you run into that tree, get knocked out, and now you're down. Nobody knows you're out there. You're out there in the middle of the snow, possibly could freeze to death. And there's nobody there to help you, nobody there to have witnessed it to help you get up on your feet and get to safety. It's the same thing with this truth. When you stumble and fall, you find yourself being tempted, you find yourself falling back into past sins or whatever the case may be. And you don't have somebody there to point it out and be like, hey, you know what, man, you're slipping, you're stumbling, you're going backwards. Somebody there to help sharpen you. The scriptures is telling us that could be bad. It's better for you to have somebody there that can help you up when you're down. Let's go back to Proverbs 27:17, as it says, iron sharpeneth iron. So a man sharpeneth the countenance of his friend. All right. And you may be wondering, what is continence? Let's look that up real quick. Get the definition of continence, because I know some of our people don't understand that. Let me stop. What is the continence? Can you see it?
Not yet.
Still haven't shown up?
No.
I don't understand what's going on. Come on. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. Yeah, I'm serious. I don't know why I suddenly keep getting kicked out. Like the internet keeps going out or something. We haven't had this issue in a long time. Remember, we were having it for a while,
Hmm.
made some changes, and it hasn't happened. And now all of a sudden it's happening again. This is crazy. But you should see it now. The continents meaning.
Yes.
So, continents, a person's face or facial expression, your face, your features, your physio, what is that? Genome, profile, your expression. All right. So the expressions on your face, your, you know what I mean? Um, usually what a person's thinking by their facial expression. And that's what the Bible teaches us. All right. So iron sharpeneth iron, so a man sharpeneth the countenance of his friend. So if you're a good friend and you're there for your friend, you're gonna put a smile on their face. You're gonna see their countenance gonna, be of joy. It's gonna look happy. You know what I mean? Your countenance could be happy and joyful, or it could be sad and gloomy. It could be angry. You know what I mean? So that's what the Bible is talking about when it's talking about your countenance. All right. So let's go back. Yeah, I'm serious. I don't know what is going on with this thing today. All right, so now we're back there. So let's go to the book of Sirach, or go back to Sirach and go to chapter 19. And you're going to read verses 29 through 30.
The book of Ecclesiasticus, chapter 19 and verse 29. A man may be known by his looks, and one that hath understanding by his countenance. When thou meetest him, a man's attire and excessive laughter and gait show what he is.
So the scripture is telling us that we can tell the way a person is by their facial expressions, by their attire, meaning what kind of clothes they're wearing, by the kind of clothes they're wearing, and their excessive laughter. You know how our people are when you see, a group, especially with Judah, you see a group of Judites standing around, and all you're hearing is a bunch of profanity, um, a lot of boasting, clowning, talking loud. Um, and you get that a lot with our people. And, especially in public, our people really don't know how to act in public. You know what I mean? Um, it's if you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. You see a lot of our people is, oh, nigga this, nigga that, and yeah, it's loud, boisterous, and it gets a lot of people's attention when they're looking like, giving that side eye. And your gait, meaning how you walk, it says it shows what he is. A man may be known by his look, and one that hath understanding by his countenance when thou meetest him. A man's attire and excessive laughter and gait show what he is. So the way you look, your facial expressions, the clothing you're wearing, that excess of laughter and joking and jesting and all of that, and the way you walk, it shows what you are. There's that expression of if it walks like a duck, talks like a duck. You know what I mean? What is it? It's a duck. Or walks like a duck, acts like a duck, talks like a duck. You know, you get the point.
Mhm.
But that's what the Bible is telling us. You know how a person is when you meet them. You know it by their look, you know it by their countenance, meaning their facial expressions. All right, and we're going to break this down. A man may be known by his look. What does that mean? What is a look? Is it just talking about the way you look at somebody with your eyes? You got to remember that words have different definitions. So let's look up the word look. The word look itself, what does it mean? All right. So let's do this again. Stop screen, share screen, share. All right. So the word look, it's got different definitions. Direct one's gaze towards someone or something or in a specified direction. So that's looking with your eyes. Okay, I looked over there. Oh, now I'm looking over here. All right. That's not the definition we want for Sirach 1929. A man may be known by his look. Think of or regard in a specified way. No, that doesn't help. Definition 3, have the appearance or give the impression of being. That's the definition we're looking for. A man may be known by his look, meaning his appearance. That's the definition we're looking for. A man may be known by his look, meaning a man may be known by appearance. All right. Um, let's go to the Merriam-Webster definition. Let's see. It's going slow. Oh, here we go. Share this tab instead. Let me know when you can see it.
There it is.
It's there.
Yeah.
All right. So let's look at Merriam-Webster's. Look, as you can see, there are several definitions for the word look as a verb to make sure, take care that something is done. That's not what we're looking for. To ascertain by the use of one's eyes. Nope. To exercise the power of vision upon, examine. No, that's not what we're looking for. Expect, anticipate. That's kind of like look out for that car, or don't, where you cross the street, make sure you look out for cars. You're expecting, you're checking with your eyes to make sure the road is clear. That's not what we're looking for. To have in mind is an end. To bring into a place or condition by the exercise of the power of vision. To express by the eyes or facial expression. Here we go. To have an appearance that befits or accords with. All right, that's one definition we can use. To exercise the power of vision, no. To direct one's attention, no. To direct the eyes, no. To have the appearance or likelihood of being, yes. To have a specified outlook, yeah. To show a tendency, nah. Here we go. This is more like it. Physical appearance, especially attractive physical appearance, usually used in plural. All right, a combination of design features giving a unified appearance. So that's what we're talking about, your physical appearance. Man may be known by his look, a man may be known by his physical appearance. Okay. So we go back to this window real quick. And All right, so we're back. All right, here we go. So Sirach 19:29 again. A man may be known by his look, and one that hath understanding by his countenance. When thou meetest him, a man's attire and excessive laughter and gait show what he is. So we're just going to go through some precepts dealing with the look. What kind of look did the Lord tell us to have? Let's go to Sirach 19. Go drop down to verse 24.
19 and 24. The book of
Yeah.
Ecclesiasticus chapter 19 and verse 24. He that hath a small understanding and feareth God is better than one that hath much wisdom and transgresseth the law of the Most High.
So the scriptures tell us he that had small understanding and fears God is better than someone that has a lot of wisdom, but yet breaks the commandments. Okay? Because, and you will see that in this truth. You're going to have Israelite leaders, Israelite teachers that are full of wisdom. They could pull scriptures like there's no tomorrow. They have a wide library of books that they read, and they got a lot of knowledge, they got a lot of wisdom, they got a lot of understanding. But when it comes to actually applying the commandments to their life, there's none, no application. But they're out here calling themselves a teacher or a leader in Israel. Okay. And then you could have somebody brand new coming in. They have very little understanding. But with that little understanding they've got, they're keeping the commandments of the Most High. But you'll have some of these leaders look down upon this, this what newbie coming in, this young one coming in, and trying to say, you don't know nothing. You don't know anything. But the Lord is saying that just because you're a leader, you got all this wisdom and knowledge, doesn't mean that you're better than them. It's actually quite the opposite. Their small understanding actually is better because they keep the commandments. All right. Again, Sirach 19:24, he that hath small understanding and feareth God is better than one that hath much wisdom and transgresseth the law of the Most High. All right. Let's go to the book of 2 Samuel. You're going to go to 2 Samuel chapter 10. You're going to read verse 4.
The book of 2 Samuel chapter 10 and verse 4. Wherefore Hanun took David's servants and and shaved off the one half of their beard and cut off their garments in the middle, even their buttocks, and sent them away.
Even to their buttocks, and sent them away. You have in Israel that there are some leaders in Israel, there are some camps in Israel that have adopted mainstream hip hop styles of clothing and dress into the Israelite culture. Okay. With the in some cases, some are still sagging their pants when they're out on the street teaching. Some are not wearing their fringes. We don't have to wear fringes. You got people teaching that out there on the streets. Baseball caps, you know what I mean, with colors, red, blue. You see some of these guys still out here wearing the colors of the gang that they used to be a part of. In other words, they haven't actually fully repented of being the person that they were before they came in. And that's why I pulled Sirach 19:24 before coming here, because you have a lot of leaders in Israel, a lot of teachers in Israel that teach certain things that they shouldn't be. And in a lot of cases, and there are some that are teaching, and they themselves haven't repented of the sins that that they've been committing since they were, in the world. They're still bringing their worldly sins into the Israelite community, even though they're hiding them. Most people in their congregations wouldn't even know that they're in the midst of a lot of these sins. Okay. And so what I'm showing you here is that when it comes to your appearance and the way you look, the Lord cares about how we look to the other nations. Okay. And cares about the way we carry ourselves, because the scripture says a man should have a beard on his face. Okay. Some people are teaching that, when you grow your beard, you shouldn't be trimming it, you shouldn't be touching it. You know what I mean? As if you should be just walking around looking bummy, looking like a bum. All right. Um, that it doesn't matter, you shouldn't, wear your fringes. There are people teaching that we shouldn't wear fringes. And like I said, and there are some groups, you see them, they're out there on the streets, with their pants sagging, wearing oversized, they're wearing the oversized shirts, the oversized, pants, sagging down to their butts with fringes on in some cases. And we're pulling 2 Samuel 10:4 to show you that showing your butt crack, having your pants sagging down is something that was looked at as shameful by our ancestors, by our forefathers. It was looked at as something to be ashamed of. To have your beard shaved off was something to be ashamed of. All right. To have your garment cut down in the middle, showing your butt, was something to be ashamed of. All right. That's why it says, wherefore Hanun took David's servants and shaved off the one half of their beards and cut off their garments in the middle, even to their buttocks, and sent them away. Because this style of dress that has been accepted in the so-called hip-hop community or Black culture is creeping into the Israelite community. All right. Where you see again this sagging of the pants, or you know what I mean, the pants weren't. If you don't understand what I mean, hold on, just give me a second. Let's do this again. Can you see it?
Yes.
All right. All right. So all I do is just type, where did the sagging pants fad come from? So I'm going to go to images first. Can you see it?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So when you look at these images that are coming up and you see these pictures, and like we were saying earlier, a lot of what we call American culture, which has been pushed worldwide, is in every sense really what we have adopted as Black culture, which they've stolen from us and basically have pushed it throughout the world. And now, as you can see, you got little white boys walking around with their pants sagging. trying to look like us, trying to walk like us, talk like us, act like us. But in reality, we, as God's people, shouldn't even be walking around acting like this. Look at this. This is what we're talking about. This is why we pulled 2 Samuel 10 and 4. We're showing you that in the scriptures, it was a shame. It was something shameful for our people to be seen with their butt crack showing, like, even though they still got boxers on underneath the, you know what I mean? It was shameful. Just look at the images. And here's a picture kind of showing, the new money. This is dangerous, and this is looked at as elegant. Pants are up. But again, this is what we as God's people have adopted as our culture. It's been normalized. And as you can see, who is this? This is Tupac. All right. You can see it start happening in the mid to late 80s. And then during the 90s, it started getting worse. And then the 2000s, to where now, again, you got even little white kids walking around. And I'm talking about in elementary school now, with their pants sagging down. All right, talking about the evolution of baggy pants or saggy pants, the 1990s, the 2000s, the 2010s, the 2000s. Yeah, it's gonna get to a point to where you do see people walking around like this. I'm not gonna exaggerate it. You drive around Stockton, you will see a homeless person walking around with their pants like this. All right. But it's something that's shameful. I never walk around my pants like that, ever. It's crazy. Like it says, worst trend ever. But again, going back to 2 Samuel 10 and 4, wherefore Hanun took David's servants and shaved off the one half of their beards and cut off their garments in the middle, even to their buttocks, and sent them away. All right. So let me go back. Let me stop sharing for a second. So we're going to go back to 2 Samuel 10. I want you to read verses 4 and 5 now.
The book of Samuel, 2 Samuel chapter 10 and verse 5. Wherefore Hanun took David's servants and shaved off the one half of their beards and cut off their garments in the middle, even to their buttocks, and sent them away. When they told it unto David, he sent to meet them, because the men were greatly ashamed. And the king said, tarry at Jericho until your beard be grown, and then return.
So as it says, they were greatly ashamed. They were ashamed at this. All right. And that's what we're trying to point out, that when people look at you, they see you carrying yourself in the way, it automatically is going to bring a preconceived idea in their mind about what kind of person you are. All right. So let's go to Isaiah 20 and 4. The book of Isaiah.
The book of Isaiah chapter 20 and verse 4. So shall the king of Assyria lead away the Egyptians prisoners and the Ethiopians captives, young and old, naked and barefoot, even with their buttocks uncovered, to the shame of Egypt.
Even with their buttocks uncovered, to the shame of Egypt. So it wasn't just in our culture that it was looked at as shameful for a man's butt to be showing. It was in all cultures back then. It was looked at, you know what I mean, as this was shameful for a man to be showing his butt that way. All right. So we're going to go back. Where did this trend come from? Okay. Let me stop sharing. We go back to the article that I was about to read. All right. So now there are differing opinions on where this actually came from. So it says, where did the sagging pants fad come from? The sagging pants fad originated from the American prison system, where inmates were often issued uniforms that were several sizes too large and not allowed to wear belts due to safety concerns. This led to trousers sagging at half mast. When released, these inmates continued to wear their trousers sagged, which eventually spread to hip hop culture and became a symbol of rebellion and identity. All right. So there are some people that agree that this style came from the prison system, but not in the way that some people think, because there are some that say that it came from um, homosexual men in prison wearing their pants that way to show that there is easy access. In this article, they're disputing that. They're saying that that's not true. But we're going to watch a couple of videos and show you that in reality, that is where this culture came from. It came from, yeah, number one, they weren't allowed to wear belts with pants. That is partly true. But at the same time, the other is true too. All right. So this is menswear style, the real history behind sagging pants, originating from prison uniforms and popularized by hip hop and skate culture. It says trends are by their very nature ridiculous. However, few of them are quite as ridiculous as the practice of wearing one's jeans around one's arse, okay, with boxer shorts on full display. To those in the know, this is called sagging, a male fashion trend that has dipped in and out of popularity since the early 1990s and was first popularized in hip hop and skate culture. But how did something as stupid as this make its way into the mainstream? Well, there are plenty of rumors. One of the most widely repeated stories proposes that in the American prison system, sagging pants were a sign of sexual availability, and that this is where the trend first originated. Another rumor is that gang members in the States took to wearing their jeans in this way as it made it easier for them to conceal weapons, which was also true. However, both of these theories are untrue, which lets you know that this person who wrote this article probably isn't really aware of the true trends and where they're coming from as far as when dealing with our people. It says the real origin of the sagging fad did come from the American prison system, but not as a signal that the wearer was up for a bit of action. In actual fact, prisoners were often given uniforms that were several sizes too big for them, and due to suicide prevention efforts, this combination of factors led to inmates' trousers riding at half mast much of the time. As prisoners were released, they continued to wear their trousers sagged, and it wasn't long before it creeped into the hip hop dress code. All right. Says young men all over the world were soon brandishing their buttocks above their jeans, but not everyone was accepting of the new trend. Understandably, a lot of older people saw this new craze as the height of disrespect and met it with widespread disapproval. Over the years, schools, airlines, transport agencies, and local governments have all brought in rules and regulations against sagging. But as anyone who can remember their teenage years will agree, tell a young male to do something and they'll do the exact opposite. Although laws were passed locally in the states, there was, that um, up with ordinances against sagging. It was going around for a while. I remember that where um, people were starting to be arrested because of the uproar over it. It quickly, mentioned it in 2008, calling the implementation of such laws a waste of time, but going on to say, having said that, brothers should pull up their pants. You're walking by your mother, your grandmother, your underwear is showing. What's wrong with that? Come on. Some people might not want to see your underwear. I'm one of them. So Obama was against those ordinances that were coming out, saying, it's ridiculous. It's not, what good is that going to do? Brothers will pick up, wear your pants up, pull them up. Came out and tried to. It says low riding is no longer reserved just for skaters with their jean wallet chains and baggy jeans in the early 2000s. Justin Bieber, among others, popularized the sagging of skinny jeans, something which unfortunately caught on. Here we go again. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on. Let me. Still hasn't popped up yet. Come on. Doesn't come out. telling you, I don't know what's going on, man.
Yeah.
We haven't had this problem in a long time, and now all of a sudden, all right, is it there finally?
No, it's not there.
It's not showing the
No,
video.
no. Mm-mm. There it is.
All right, what's this commercial? All right, so this is one of those situations where these kids are, getting themselves caught up in a lot of trouble, trying to follow these trends and things like that, or trying to be, some little hardcore wannabe little thugs. And